Is it worth the upgrade from the S5ii to the S1ii? I've been using the S5ii for 2 years now in my video production business, and I've absolutely loved this camera. It's been a workhorse. So this is my comparison video between these two cameras as a video creator. I won't be touching on photo as I do more video in my business. In this video, I'm going to go over my experiences since I purchased the S1ii on launch date. I have some side-by-side comparisons between both these cameras. I shot a lot of these comparisons with my double camera rig I built, and I'll be showing footage from projects that I've used both these cameras on. In making this video, I was absolutely surprised by the results I got, and I have a conclusion that you probably won't guess. First off, let's talk about the price between these two cameras. The S5ii currently is $1,800 new USD, while the S1ii is currently $3,200 new USD. That's around a $1,400 difference between these two cameras. Keep in mind, the S5ii is around 3 years old, and you can pick them up on the secondhand market in the United States for about $1,300. I know because I picked up a few for that price. Though the body size and weight are similar, with the S5ii coming in at 2.6 pounds, while the S1ii is about 2.8 pounds. There are some key differences between the S1ii and the S5ii, but they seem to be more of a quality of life upgrade in my opinion. First off, the S1ii has a flip tilt screen that goes in many directions, unlike the S5ii, which has the normal flip out screen. The S1ii has a partially stacked faster sensor readout opposed to the S5ii. It also has a front record button, dedicated photo video switch, the ability to lock buttons physically, a CF Express card and SD combo instead of 2 SD cards, an indented button for the shutter dial, and a shutter door to protect the sensor from dust while changing lenses. As far as specs and codecs go, I'm not going to get too much into detail as you could be here all day. I suggest you watch something by Gerald Undone. He does a pretty good review of all the different specs. This camera has a lot of them, but the main specs that attract me about the S1ii that are not found in the S5ii are the 5.1K open gate 60 frames a second, ProRes RAW internally, and the 4K 60 with no crop. The 4K 60 with no crop is quite a big deal for my business. I mean, one of the main selling points of the A7S III when it first was launched in 2020 was that it could do 4K 60 with no crop. The color science has definitely improved and is more noticeable in full quality deliverables to clients more so than on YouTube. And in my test, this is where I really had to tip my hat to the S5ii. It holds up really well with colors against the S1ii. Like I said, on YouTube, it's hard to notice a huge color fidelity increase, but when taking it into DaVinci or any other coloring program, you can really push and pull the colors more than the S5ii in post. In reality, will clients know the difference? Most likely not. And this is a real testament to Lumix for making the S5ii so good and still hold up to this day for hobbyists and paid client work. And even though the S1ii has updated IBIS, the S5ii still pulls its weight up against the S1ii when it comes to IBIS performance. Where I did notice an upgrade was with the cropless IBIS mode. Being able to use L-mount lenses and not have any crop when turning on the IBIS is a welcome upgrade. But it depends on the user. If you're someone who uses a lot of cinema glass, then having cropless IBIS means nothing because you'll still have that crop. I personally have been using more Blazar and DZO lenses as my career has progressed. As much of an upgrade as this is, if it's not gimbal work or I'm using L-mount lenses, I haven't noticed it as much as some people might. So depending on your use case, this might not be a major upgrade. And depending on your video needs, one of the tools that was a nice upgrade was false color in the S1ii. If you're somebody else who uses a lot of external monitors and already have false color in them, this might not be a huge upgrade for you. I noticed it when using gimbal for jobs that I could just easily put a body and a lens on a gimbal and use false color to see what my exposure range is. Super helpful for that, but I could understand people who are rigged out all the time on an S5ii, it probably wouldn't make a difference. All in all, it's a pretty innovative and welcome upgrade. Most other cameras don't offer false color at this price range. Now, when the S1ii was released, when it came to thermal management, there was quite a stir online. I know that I was posting a lot of things, testing out the S1ii and its thermal performance, putting it in direct sun and recording to see how long I would get, and it wasn't great, at least in my testing. I have plenty of videos talking about the thermal management of the S1ii and the S1R2. And the funny part is all those tests, I was using an S5ii to document the overheating for most of my tests, and this thing never overheated, even when the S1ii or the S1R2 did. And I've used this camera for 2 years. I've put this camera in direct sun for long takes for hours and had it in over 100-degree weather and never had an issue with this camera. It's pretty bulletproof when it comes to overheating. Now, with that said, I had the camera overheat once on a client paid gig, and they did just put out a firmware update, which I've been testing the thermals of that, and it seems pretty usable. So I'm not really worried about the overheating as much as I did when I first got it. In practice, I haven't had much of an issue. but I will say the S5 II is bulletproof when it comes to that. And that's a testament to Lumix because that camera is older and the way they built it was like a tank. The S1 II has a noticeable upgrade in autofocus, and I noticed the tap to track, or the tracking mode in the far left, is way more usable than the S5 II. You can actually tap on a subject's face and it'll actually track them pretty well. Now, when it comes to subject tracking, if you want to use the tap to track on an object, it's hit or miss, but all the other modes seem to be a little bit more fine-tuned. The S5 II still has great autofocus and is very reliable. I've been using it, like I said, for the last couple years for paid gigs. Haven't really noticed a lack of trust in the autofocus. There are times that I wish it had better tracking on the S5 II, and I would try to tap and track on a moving subject, and it was pretty much garbage, but the S1 II is pretty reliable when it comes to people. The low light on the S1 II is significantly better over the S5 II, and was one of the main reasons I wanted to upgrade to the S1 II for my business as an A-cam. Not only does the S1 II have a higher base ISO of 5000 over 4000 from the S5 II, but I noticed right off the gate, if you use the same ISOs between the two cameras, it seems to be brighter on the S1 II naturally. So even if you're shooting at 640 or 4000, 1000, whatever ISO you're at, it seems to be brighter when put neck and neck with the same lens on the S1 II. Not only that, the dual base of 5000 seems to be a much more usable ISO range for low light, and we do quite a bit of low light shoots and have limited lighting at a lot of our run and gun or event shoots. So this was a welcome upgrade, and I'm very happy that Lumix implemented this into their new S lines. The S5 II does have great low light, and it's definitely usable in most case scenarios. So if this is not something that you need for your business, or you always bring lighting, then this will probably be a very small upgrade for you. The dynamic range is improved on the S1 II, at least on paper. In practice, I haven't noticed much of a difference between the S5 II and the S1 II when taking it in post. There is a dynamic range boost mode, and I tend not to use it much, but when I do, I notice a slight bit difference in dynamic range. Overall, the S5 II has pretty great dynamic range, and for client work, it's pretty usable, and I don't think clients really notice the difference between the two. So my conclusion about the S1 II, when you put it up against the S5 II, if you're an S5 II user and you're overall happy with your experience, but you really need full frame 4K 60 and you're tired of changing lenses all the time, or you struggle and not having enough light at shoots and shoot a lot of darker scenes for your work, or most of your job is shot in open gate and you'd really like open gate 60 full frame, I feel like the S1 II is a great and welcome upgrade. Even though we purchased two S1 IIs for our business, and I definitely don't regret it, I do think a majority of people would benefit keeping their S5 IIs, unless you need the things I spoke about earlier. The difference in money you would spend, you could spend on better lenses or other equipment or marketing for your business. When it comes to the digital edge of the S5 II, I will say, looking at the footage in the final deliverables or on my screen at home, I can tell that the S1 II has a slightly less digital image than the S5 II, but when it comes to delivering client work, I don't think people will notice, and definitely on YouTube it's really hard to see. Since I used both these cameras last year quite a bit, I can say I'm very surprised how well the S5 II holds up against the S1 II. I absolutely don't regret buying it. A lot of my colleagues updated to the S1 IIs and they don't regret updating. They did it for specific needs, like I said earlier. Overall, the S5 II holds up really well. Now, if you're someone coming from another camera brand, let's say Sony or Canon, you could probably benefit from jumping to the S1 II as it's more modernized and you're probably already used to a 4K 60 with full frame. And let's be real, you're probably jumping from a Sony FX3 or an expensive Canon camera. So you could probably afford selling those cameras and lenses and moving to an S1 II. And you would be upgrading to something that has open gate, something that does 4K 60 full frame, has great IBIS, great image quality, and you'd benefit from having all your cameras have a uniform log form. One of my issues that I had when I was on Canon was everything was C-Log1, C-Log2, C-Log3, everything was mixed up, so the images all were hard to match. It was hard to find a B cam, C cam to a C70 or a C80. Now we have the C50, so what would you pair as a B cam to the C50? Maybe the R6 Mark III, maybe the R5 Mark II. They're all very expensive, and they're all very different cameras. I feel like the S5 II pairs really well when it comes to image quality to the S1ii, and it's a great B cam to the S1ii if you're going to use it as an A cam. I also think the S5ii is a great A cam for most people. If you're coming from Sony, you're going to be spending a ton of money on the FX3, A7S3s, and what are your side bodies? They're usually cropped sensor cameras, and you're having to change different lenses. This is a full frame camera, and it's very affordable, even on the used market. The Canon C50 currently comes in at $3,900 new, and the FX3 is still $4,000. So either way, coming from another camera brand, you're going to be saving money moving to the S1ii, and I don't think you'll feel it as much as if you move to the S5ii from another camera brand if you're already shooting full frame 60 a lot. For me, the upgrade to 4K 60 full frame and low light ability was enough for me to want to upgrade and keep it. I do not regret buying these cameras at all. I absolutely love these cameras and have been using them quite a bit. As I'm making a full-time living off these cameras, it makes sense for me to upgrade, and it makes my shooting workflow easier just to have less lighting and be able to use a single lens for slow-mo or 24 frames a second. And that means I can have less gear on site. So hopefully this was helpful in some of the comparison videos. If you made it to the end of this video, I appreciate you. I'll be working on some more content and some more comparison videos soon. If you want to share your thoughts, have any questions, please leave them in the comment. Like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And until the next time.